points as they negotiate their way through turn 3. They'll have to sort it out, and Madden has just managed to stay in front. Scott Dornan poking his nose down the inside into turn 4. Matt Martin maintaining a watching brief in position 4, and Chris Neepsey getting in on the action as well. It was a very good initial jump from Brandon Madden at the start, but then the acceleration phase of the launch procedure went Grant Johnson's way as they accelerated up through the gears. The Commodore pulled ahead, and so it's Grant Johnson who finds himself out in front once again.
3.5 second margin in the first race for Grant Johnson. Doesn't have that at the moment, but we'll be working on it, I'm sure. Johnson, Madden, Dornan, Martin. Our top 4. Chris Neepsey looking to come up on the back of Martin. He'll take an opportunity if it presents itself. Back into the home straight.
Neepsey was very wide then coming out of the final corner, doing everything that he could to maximise his exit speed onto the main straight. And he's right up behind Matt Martin as they head into turn 1. Pulls to the outside. He'll try and go the long way round, and he's going to pull it off as well. Great move from Chris Neepsey and Brandon Madden. We saw it in the previous race, and we see it again, dropping wheels off the road at turn 1 as Martin comes back down the inside of Neepsey into turn 2 and will recapture that position under brakes. So it looks like it was a great move from Neepsey, but he had it taken away from him when they got to turn 2. Here he comes again down the inside at turn 4. Martin shuts the door firmly.
Very firmly. There was no room there in the end at all for Neepsey to try and find a way through. He's dropped off Martin now a little bit, and that's given Rick Gill the opportunity to look at the possibility of maybe passing Chris Neepsey. As we see our leaders there, Johnson, Madden, Dornan, then Martin. Neepsey's just dropped off him a little bit, Rick Gill. Corberstein as well, just off the back of Gill. So a good battle here for 3rd through to 7th. Has the potential to change a couple of times in the next 11.5 minutes.
Michael Koberstein in the West Coast Cylinder Heads VN Commodore doing a really good job. That's the older model car, but he's up running with the drivers in the newer generation cars. So he's well and truly out in front in the Pro-Am class for the older model saloon cars at the moment. Good to see Justin Chaffee back out on the circuit as well. We saw the failure in the left rear of his Commodore at the start of the previous race, which caused a red flag interruption while his car was removed from the main straight. They've obviously got the car fixed and back out there, but understandably Justin Chaffee is driving a bit conservatively at the moment because that's twice this weekend that he's had failures in the left rear of that car.
Neepsey looking to try and get away past Matt Martin. This has been a good build-up for the last couple of laps between these two. Rick Gill right there as well. Using every inch of the track, these guys, to try and get maximum benefit. Grant Johnson, though, remains in the lead. 1.5 second margin between him and Brandon Madden.
There's Rick Gill, the Rick Gill Motorcycles AU Falcon. Neepsey very sideways on the exit of turn 8. Here's a replay. So this is...
That was Brandon Madden going wide, yeah.
Oh, it was actually all 4 wheels. Wow, he did well to save that, Chevex. That could have been a very ugly moment.
High speed off at turn 1. Just off, though. in the end for Brandon Madden. Would have had him moving in his seat. Rick Gill now looking to come up the inside of Neefsey through turn one, as we will see those two making their way down. There's our leader. Sorry, I should say our second place getter, Brandon Madden. In front of him, Grant Johnson.
And indeed, Rick Gill has made the move through on Chris Neefsey. So a couple of laps ago, we saw that Neefsey was up challenging Matt Martin for fourth position, but he's now been relegated back to sixth by Rick Gill, who copped a penalty for jumping the start in the previous race, but no such penalties have been awarded in this particular heat. Best lap so far, 1 minute 47.6 for Grant Johnson. That's the fastest lap that we've seen in race conditions so far this weekend, and it's only a tenth of a second away from Sean Jamison's 2011 lap record. So some serious pace being set by our race leader at the moment.
Yeah, no doubt.
Could they get down to lap record times?
1:47.51.26 was that time of Sean Jamison's in a VT Commodore back in 2011. So 11 years that lap record is held. And Grant Johnson, the opportunity with another 5 or so laps here, and then this afternoon's final race to get that time down. Currently a 1:47.69. So 0.2 of a second he needs to find. Does our leader, Grant Johnson. Scott Dornan, Matt Martin right behind him. Continuing the good battle for third.
Yes, so Matt Martin's closed in on Scott Dornan, so that's becoming a three-way contest for third position at the moment between Dornan, Martin and also Rick Gill. So that's going to be the most interesting battle on the racetrack very shortly. The contest for positions 3, 4, 5 and 6, because Chris Neefsey is still right in amongst that group of cars as well.
He was a bit further up, Chris Neefsey. He's now dropped back a couple of spots, but just tacks on to the back of that group with Rick Gill just in front of him. So 6.5 minutes remaining on the clock in our fourth heats of the Australian Saloon Car Nationals. Points will be tallied up after this heat, and then we'll get a grid for our final race of this category, where our 2022 Australian Saloon Car National Champion will be crowned.
Really heating up in the battle for third, because Scott Dornan's under big pressure now. Matt Martin and Rick Gill now both right on the tail of the VY Commodore as they negotiate their way up into turns 9, 10 and 11. Scott Dornan, the VY Commodore action line marking sponsored entry, feeling the pressure from behind. And as I mentioned before, the Holders and the Fords, they do have different strengths and weaknesses because of the different engine and suspension configurations. Rick Gill, really nice exit from the final corner and down the inside. Makes the move through on Matt Martin into turn 1. That is Rick Gill up to position 4.
Great move by Rick Gill. Left it as late as he could to just touch the brake to set up for that turn into turn 1.
And the door has been left open for Chris Neefsey, who capitalises and goes down the inside of Matt Martin into turn 2. So Matt Martin loses 2 spots in the space of 2 corners. He's been bundled back to position 6.
Well, that's great for Chris Neefsey, who had dropped a couple of spots in a lap. And one thought that maybe tyres might have been down on him or something, but now works his way back up a position as he passes Matt Martin, and now will set his sights on grabbing Rick Gill and moving himself up into 4th place.
Rick Gill has his sights set on position 3 here. It's now his turn to have a go at attacking Scott Dornan. was Matt Martin who was right up behind Scott Dornan on the previous lap, but Martin ultimately lost out. Oh, it was both both Chris Neepsey and Matt Martin using all of the road on the exit of turn 8. And here comes Rick Gill up the inside of Scott Dornan at turn 9. He'll be on the wrong side of the road when they get to the next left-hander.
Chris Neepsey drifting his way through that turn, and as a result, Matt Martin gets himself back up into 5th place.
Here comes Rick Gill once again. He's getting really good exits from the last corner, and that Falcon is clearly very strong in a straight line. Down the inside, this is the move for 3rd position on Scott Dornan, and Chris Neepsey's back ahead of Matt Martin as well. Good job, nice pass. Can Scott Dornan fight back at turn 2? Here he comes. Big lunge under brakes. Can he get the number 23 Commodore stopped? Indeed he can.
Good work.
Nice job to recapture that position from Rick Gill straight away.
Well, they haven't started the riding on the trophies for this podium just yet, because it could end anyway. 4 cars involved in this battle for 3rd. Dornan, Gill, Neepsey and Martin. And seriously, don't underestimate Matt Martin just yet with 2 laps to go.
Problem for this quartet of drivers, though, is because they've been battling so fiercely for 3rd position, they're now more than 15 seconds behind Grant Johnson and Brandon Madden, our 2 race leaders. Here's a replay of what happened to Chris Neepsey. He was right out sideways on the approach to turn 11, but the incredible thing was that he didn't actually compromise his exit too much from the final corner, and he was able to recapture the spot from Matt Martin down the main straight.
Just left the door wide open for Martin to take that position.
Here we go, it's back on here. Rick Gill around the outside, this time Scott Dornan.
And
checkered flags out.
Dornan as well.
The checkered flags out. Grant Johnson's taken the win ahead of Brandon Madden, but our attention firmly focused on this contest positions 3, 4, 5 and 6. It's going to come right down to a drag race to the finish line. Rick Gill, we've seen that his exits and his straight line performance has been very strong, so he will hold on for 3rd position just ahead of Scott Dornan. Chris Neepsey and Matt Martin completing your top 6, but those 4 drivers certainly gave us plenty of entertainment in the second half of that saloon car race.
And there's your winner, though, Grant Johnson, who I dare say will start from pole position for our final race.
Yes, I think that would be a fair assumption, given that he's won 3 out of the 4 heat races and was second in the other one. Yep.
So, confirmation of our placings for heat number 4 for the Australian Saloon Car Nationals. Grant Johnson, nearly a 5-second margin between him and Brandon Madden in 2nd place. Rick Gill 3rd. Look at that. 0.5 of a second between Gill and Dornan.